One of the remarkable stats about Ken Dryden is that he won the Conn Smythe trophy and he won the Stanley Cup before he had lost one regular season NHL game. He has a very different thought process. He saw the game very differently. The book that he wrote, The Game, remains the seminal work on hockey, really.
Despite his brief 8-year career, Dryden remains near the top of every statistical category for Montreal goaltenders.
Most goalies need years before anyone remembers their name. They spend seasons learning the speed of the NHL, the pressure of big markets, and the grind of carrying a team night after night. But then there was Ken Dryden. He played just 6 regular season games before being thrown into the playoffs. And instead of crumbling, he carried the Montreal Canadiens all the way to the Stanley Cup. And he did it while still juggling law school. In only 8 years, he would collect 6 cups, 5 Vezinas, a Conn Smythe, and a Calder. It's an avalanche of awards that made him one of the most decorated goaltenders in history. But the numbers are only part of the story. He wasn't just dominant, he was different. Calm, towering, intellectual, and unshakable. He redefined what it meant to play goal. Now, after his passing in September 2025, the hockey world is remembering him not just as a Hall of Famer, but as a thinker, a leader, and a man who lived life on his own terms. So let's look back and ask, just how great was Ken Dryden? When the Canadiens called him up in March 1971, Dryden was still technically a student, a towering, lanky goalie who had spent most of his time in Cornell rinks and Montreal law classrooms. But then, with just 6 NHL games on his resume, he was suddenly starting Game 1 of the playoffs against the Boston Bruins, the highest scoring team the league had ever seen. The Bruins were loaded: Bobby Orr, Phil Esposito, Johnny Busick, Ken Hodge. They had just shattered records with 399 goals in the regular season. On paper, Montreal had no chance, but therefore, the rookie became the story. In Game 1, he turned aside 39 shots, many from Orr and Esposito, and stunned the crowd. He leaned on his stick between whistles, looking almost bored. Reporters thought it was arrogance, but it was something else: control. He made it look effortless, even though nothing about it was. The series stretched to 7 games, and in the decider, Boston peppered him with 48 shots. Dryden stopped 46. Montreal won 4-2. Pulling off one of the greatest upsets in playoff history. A few weeks later, the rookie not only had the Stanley Cup in his hands, but the Conn Smythe as playoff MVP. 6 games of experience, and suddenly he was the face of the Canadiens' future. But that wasn't the whole story, because the way he did it, tall, calm, cerebral, would change goaltending forever. Goaltending before Dryden was chaos. Shorter goalies crouched deep, twitching and lunging, always reacting, always on edge. It was frantic, exhausting, and risky. But then came Dryden, standing 6'4", one of the tallest players in the league. Instead of shrinking himself, he used his frame like a wall. He stood tall, swallowed angles, and dared shooters to find a hole. Therefore, he didn't just make saves, he forced opponents into bad decisions. They overshot, overpassed, and second-guessed themselves. Esposito once admitted that Dryden got into his head. Just looking at him in the crease was intimidating. The calm posture became legendary. He would lean on his stick between plays, relaxed, almost casual. To fans, it looked nonchalant. To shooters, it was psychological warfare. He was saying, "I've got you figured out. Take your best shot." And he didn't sprawl unless absolutely necessary. He saved energy, controlled rebounds, and played the position with an economy that made dangerous shots look routine. He redefined the goaltending archetype: less chaos, more control. But this wasn't just style, it was intellect. Dryden thought the game like a chess master. He anticipated plays, read formations, and was often 2 steps ahead, and therefore, the Dryden became a model future goalies studied, a template that outlasted his short career. Most rookies would have abandoned everything to focus on their NHL dream. But then there was Ken Dryden. After shocking the world in the playoffs, he didn't quit school. He went back to law classes, mixing mornings in lecture halls with nights in the forum crease. Therefore, he became the rare athlete who proved hockey wasn't everything. When contract talks broke down in 1973, he didn't cave. Instead, he walked away from the Canadiens for an entire season to finish his degree. Fans were furious, teammates were baffled, but Dryden was unmoved. This wasn't stubbornness, it was principle. He wanted to prove that a player could value life beyond the rink, even when playing for the most storied franchise in hockey. And when he returned, he didn't miss a beat. He stepped back into the crease and won again. But that season away wasn't wasted time. It cemented his reputation as more than an athlete, as someone who thought bigger, someone unwilling to let the game define him entirely. And that independence only made made his eventual dominance even more remarkable. Ken Dryden's career lasted just 8 seasons, but then, within those years, he achieved a level of dominance almost unmatched in hockey history. Therefore, his resume reads like fiction. 6 Stanley Cups in 8 seasons, 5 Vezinas as best goalie, the Conn Smythe, the Calder. His win percentage remains among the best ever recorded. The 1976-77 season stands as a monument to his peak. Montreal lost only 10 games all year, and Dryden was at the heart of it. He played 56 games and posted a goals against average so low it would look unreal in any era. Opponents often admitted they felt beaten before the puck even dropped. This was dominance not stretched out over decades, but compressed into an almost perfect block of years, and therefore every season he played felt monumental. There was no slow decline, no lingering years as a backup, just concentrated greatness. But then, just as he seemed destined to rule the crease for another decade, he made a choice that stunned the hockey world. Most athletes cling to the game, squeezing out every last season. But then came 1979. Ken Dryden was only 31 years old, still one of the best goalies alive, still capable of winning, and he retired. Therefore, his career ended not with decline, but with strength. He walked away a champion with 6 cups and a Hall of Fame resume already secured. This choice baffled some, but it was pure Dryden. Just as he had balanced law school and hockey, he now chose life beyond the ice. He had proven everything he needed to prove, and he wanted to explore other paths. It wasn't quitting, it was redefining what an athlete's career could be. Instead of being remembered for staying too long, he left immortalized at his best, and that decision gave his legacy an almost mythic quality. But then his second career began, and it was almost as remarkable as his first. After hanging up his pads, many expected Dryden to fade into quiet retirement, but then he picked up a pen. His book, The Game, became a masterpiece, widely considered the greatest hockey book ever written. But it wasn't just about saves and scores, it was about the psychology of athletes, the grind of a season, and the human side of greatness. It became essential reading, even for players themselves. Therefore, Dryden showed that athletes could contribute to culture and thought, not just highlight reels. He didn't stop there. He became a lawyer, a teacher, a public servant, even a federal cabinet minister in Canada. He spoke on education, on youth, on the responsibilities of sport. He earned the Order of Canada. His life after hockey expanded what it meant to be a legend. He was no longer just a goalie. He was an author, a leader, a thinker, and therefore his influence stretched far beyond the ice, into classrooms, politics, and communities. But then, in September 2025, the news came that would shake the hockey world once more. On the night of September 5th, 2025, Ken Dryden passed away at the age of 78 after a battle with cancer. But then, within hours, tributes poured in from every corner of the hockey world. Former teammates spoke of his calm that steadied dynasties. Opponents remembered the frustration of shooting into what felt like an unbreakable wall. Writers praised his intellect. Fans recalled the image of him leaning on his stick, waiting, watching, unshakable. Therefore, his passing wasn't just the loss of a hockey player. It was the farewell to a Canadian icon, a man who had shaped the game and the nation's cultural fabric. Montreal lit up tributes. Flags were lowered. The NHL community shared memories of a goalie who didn't just play, he transformed. And in mourning, people realized something. His career may have been short, but his reach was eternal. But then, the question still lingered. Just how good was he really? Greatness is often measured in numbers: wins, saves, cups, trophies. And by that metric, Dryden is untouchable. 6 cups in 8 years, a Hall of Fame induction, awards stacked like few others. But then there's the intangible, the way he redefined goaltending, not through reflex but through intelligence. The way he balanced education and sport, refusing to let hockey consume his identity. The way he left on his own terms, proving that true greatness isn't about clinging, but about knowing when to walk away. Therefore, Ken Dryden's greatness wasn't just about how many goals he stopped. It was about how he lived, how he thought, and how he showed the world that an athlete could also be a scholar, a leader, and a statesman. So how great was prime Ken Dryden? He wasn't just great, he was transformational. He was the rare athlete who didn't just master his position, he changed it forever. He was the goalie who made impossible calm look ordinary, the champion who collected cups like souvenirs, and the thinker who proved hockey was only part of a bigger life. He lived as proof that greatness isn't about length of career, but depth of impact. 8 years, 6 cups, and a legacy that will last forever. Ken Dryden didn't just stop pucks. Bucks. He stopped time, and in doing so, he became one of the most important figures the game has ever known. If Dryden's story inspires you to play your own game your way, to value what matters beyond the rink, to believe in your calm when the world is chaos, then honor him by carrying that forward. If you'd like to show your support, hit like, subscribe, and share your favorite memory of Ken Dryden in the comments, because legends like him deserve to be remembered forever.